Welcome back to another episode of Battle Talks. This week we have the legendary Marquetta Dickens. Greatness, all I can tell you, man. She's from Tarboro, North Carolina. Played for NC State under Coach Yow. Now the head coach of Peace University Women's Girls. And I'll let her dig into her story a little bit about who she is. So Marquetta, kick it off and let us know about yourself.
Hello, everybody. Let's see, where to start, man. I went to Tarboro High from 99 to 2003, and I graduated from there. Born and raised in Princeville. That's always everybody's like, "Oh, you went to Tarboro High." A lot of people forget. I used to say I'm from Tarboro all the time, but I'm really from Princeville, Neville Street to be exact.
Okay.
Yeah, Neville Street, Pioneer Court. That's where I, born and raised, and then I spent a lot of time between Princeville, East Tarboro, and Panola Street at my great grandma's and Pine Tops until I was like 5. So I'm a little country girl. I grew up playing basketball since I was 5. That really started, I guess, my sports career. I started out at the Braswell Center as the only girl over there at the time. I think it might have been the next year was 2 more of us, Pat Mary Beth and Barbara Chisholm. So I grew up just playing ball and really being a tomboy outside. Thank God for my stepfather. He allowed me to embrace that part of myself, and it was really dope. So, building things with my hands, barns and stuff like that, going fishing, hunting, learned riding ATVs. That's where I got my toughness. You fall off, you bleed in, get right back on.
Yep.
So, country life really toughened me up. If people say get it out the mud, we literally were in the mud. So, getting out the trenches. And then go on to middle school. I remember, I don't know if you remember back in middle school, if y'all did it in the mornings, you get to play basketball while you waiting for the school.
Sometimes I think my 7th grade we could. I think 8th grade we couldn't. So yeah, I think it changed right when I came around. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started to realize how good I was at that time. Everybody, all the guys want to play me, blah blah blah. Never all the guys want to be the girl, but I was busting heads. I was busting heads early, elementary school, middle school, and it was really cool because the older guys at Braswell really took me in, and they were like 40, and I'm like 9, and I'm like 9 years old playing with like 40-year-old men, and they really taught me the game. And so they taught me when to use the backboard. They really sharpened my basketball IQ. And so, moving forward, I just kind of always was a quiet kid, had a chip on my shoulder, just kind of little things that I kind of just dealt with personally. And I never really talked about it. I think I was a pretty reserved kid. Then going on to middle school, middle school, not middle school, going on to high school. In middle school, WNBA started. And I'm like, I always want to be the first girl in the NBA, and then the WNBA. I'm like, man, it's really girls that play pro ball. And so I had a vision. And I had the talent, I had the skill set, I had people backing me. And so at that time, I just knew I just wanted to hoop. So I went to camp in 6th grade, went to ECU's camp, went to Coach Yow's camp. Started getting recruited. I was in 6th grade. Well, going into the 6th grade, I was hooping with high schoolers like Tanisha Lewis at camp, at NC State's camp. And they're like, who's this kid? Me, I just wanted to play ball. I just love playing ball. And fortunate for me, I chose NC State to continue my collegiate career. I was a 4-year starter there. I tell everybody that, that my sophomore year was really the generation of the stretch 4. I was about 5'9", playing the 4 my sophomore year, because there's no way they were going to take me off the floor. That's what, one of my coaches, Johnny Harris, is a mentor for me. She's a national championship coach, several. She's over at Texas. She's over at Texas now. She just left Mississippi State. And I'll never forget, she told me, and she's like, you have to make it so no one can take you off the court. I'll never forget that. Going into college, most players will tell you one of the things that will hinder you is your lack of confidence. If you allow someone to take your confidence, then you have nothing left. And she pulled me in her office and had a nice little pep talk with me my freshman year, and I started ever since. It was about midway through going into ACC play, and going in that sophomore year, they couldn't take me out of the rotation. And so I played the 4. My numbers didn't really drop. Freshman year, being second leading scorer behind a Kodak All-American. and to be moved and to change positions to something that's totally different at the
Gotcha.
collegiate level. Before the stretch four was
Right.
just different. But again, we make the best out of any situation that we put ourselves in or that we're put in. That's just where we're from.
Gotcha.
We
Yeah.
and so that's what happened. So I started for 4 years. I went on to play professional
Yeah,
basketball.
let me stop you. I want to stop you before you
Okay.
get pro. I want to stop you in
Okay.
there. So, okay, so I'm gonna tell you how I learned about you. So, if, like I said, people don't know, we're from the same area, Tarboro. She's from Princeville, which is like the neighboring town over from Tarboro. But how I learned about you was literally I was probably going to middle school around the time, or probably elementary, almost for real. And it was like, yo, this is girl at Tarboro High, and because me, I was on the other side looking from the football scene of, the Shuns and Jamel Vermels and, all these people playing football and, even before them. So I'm like, yeah, I want to play football, but, basketball something I did too. But it was like, yeah, this girl that, yeah, I think she could dunk. I was like, she could dunk? I was like, nah, she can't dunk. It was like, nah, seriously, like she could dunk. And I think I caught you maybe like after practice one day or something. And I was like in the bleachers. And I think you were like trying to basically dunk or like in the gym when it happened. So I was like, yeah, it's crazy to see that. And then even in high school, I think you were 1,000-point scorer, right?
2000.
2,000, which is the only 2,000-point scorer we have at the school, I believe. I know guys, I think it's a couple of thousands, but not sure about 2,000. And then college, you almost hit 1,000. You were like 980, 985,
Yep.
989, something like that. Yep. So with 500 rebounds, like you said, you became that stretch forward before it was. So you were getting rebounds too. So the game was changing, around that time. And like you said, you played for the legendary Coach Yow. What was some of like the things that really like, hit you from her that even to this day you still, have and carry with yourself every day?
And especially with me being a coach. I mean, Coach Yow is the reason why I coach, to be perfectly
Mm.
honest. I think it was my sophomore year, the junior year. She used to talk to me about coaching all the time because we used to run camps like our players. We would do a lot in camp,
Yep.
and she thought I was a great teacher of the game. And we had a coaching minor at NC State, and she thought that I should get into the minor and become a coach. And I told Coach Yow, heck no. Ever coach for a couple of reasons. Only one of y'all are married, none of y'all have kids, or maybe one of y'all have kids, and we crazy. I said, ain't no way.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until after Coach Yow passed away and her legacy really hit me, and the impact that she had and the influence that she had on my life, it hit me. And then that summer I did a summer camp at North Carolina Central. It was just crazy. And I really know that my life is divinely ordered and I've surrendered to that. That summer, mind you, this is 2 years coming off of playing overseas where I have the numbers, so I
Yep.
should be calls, right? I do a clinic over at North Carolina Central with Coach Jolie Robinson and Antonio Davis. Again, they really loved the way that I taught the game. And so they asked me to come and volunteer. And I'm like, man, all right, this is the second time. I thought about coach a
Yeah.
little bit. I volunteer, but my agent called, I got to go. Like, I'm going back overseas.
Yep.
But at the same time, this was year 2 where the first year my uncle was in ICU when I almost lost my uncle.
And this first season you were in Poland or Poland.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The second year I was in Portugal and Coach Al passed away.
Gotcha.
So, I fell in love with the game. I really started to think about the impact and the influence that Coach Al had on my life. One of the things that I carry with me as a coach is that she always utilized the game of basketball to teach us the game of life and life lessons. After every practice, she always gave us some type of great tool. Her quotes just really still stick with me. She used to always say, people don't care what you know until they know you care. That is the number one thing for me as a coach. People have to know you care first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then she would always say, she would say things like, you can't walk. She said, it's okay to feel a little sorry for yourself, but you can't wallow in self-pity or you'll drown. You have to switch your feet and get out. Your attitude determines your altitude. And she would have this balloon at camp where she would have one with helium and one with just regular air. And she would let the one go with the good attitude. And that's your altitude, right? This is the bad. it drops. So it's just like all of those little things that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball is the things that I remember. If you
Mm-hmm.
ask me what plays we used to run, what sport we had, like I don't remember any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And as much as we were ready to leave after practice, I still remember those conversations after practice. All of those little nuggets that she gave us to get through adversity. Those are the things that I remember the most. I
Yeah.
remember her fight with breast cancer. The moment that stands out to me the most in terms of, because I've had my own medical stuff that I've had to go through, and I always think about her and her fight. So a lot of people have probably heard this story by now, but senior night was against Carolina, and so it was the day, it was the practice before senior night. Coach I was battling with stage 5 cancer at this time. She passes out at practice. The ambulance had to be called. And we're all just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like we don't have coach for senior night. Like, I don't know. At that moment, we snapped. Like we
Yeah.
went in zombie mode. Like practice was the most intense I've ever seen it in my life. I think we really just went hard because nobody wanted to cry. Nobody
Yeah.
wanted to think about it. It's like, this is for her at this
Yeah.
point. We had no idea the next day was game, and we hadn't seen Coach. Man, when she walked through that elevator, it was game. It was game on at that point. And so it's just like understanding and knowing that a coach can have this type of impact um, over your life is it was something that stood with me. Like, of course, I knew my middle school coach, Miss Drone.
Yep.
Is that still my mama today? Coach Willoughby. But it was just something different with my collegiate coach and my
Yeah.
college coach. Time that we spent and the type of influence, because I was older at that point in
Yeah,
my
you're
life.
older. Yeah, you can really understand more. I was talking to I had Coach Jenkins on a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the same type of situation. He played tennis in college, but like even me from a collegiate level, like and the lessons I learned from him then, and even my mom, like growing up, I didn't really understand that stuff till like college, and like right after college when you really start to go through some real life stuff, and you're like,
Right.
damn, you know what? That makes sense for real, for real. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like how those lessons come around to you when you really don't even realize it yet. So now I definitely get you on that.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I chose to be a coach at the collegiate level. Also, I have a background. I'm a trained therapist,
Mm,
so I understand human development at this age and how important it is. And so I really, again, I understood why Coach I was so important and influential in my life, because I was really, really finally on my own
yeah.
developing who I was as a person aside
Yep.
from my me morals and values. What are my own morals and values?
Mm-hmm.
That's me, and I needed that. I needed that environment, that nurturing environment that she gave, that caring environment that she gave. She cared more about me as a person than she ever did as a basketball player, and I
Mm,
knew that through her actions and not her words.
yeah.
So those are the things that I remember the most about college.
I think the greatest coaches to me that I've encountered or even friends of mine have encountered is like you said, is what they do for you outside of the actual sport, the lessons they can learn that they teach you that they've learned and pass on to you. Like I had college coaches that I mean I had like position coaches, stuff like that is different, but like my head coach was that type of person. Like it's I'm the greatest. Like that's all he knew. Like he was 40, he competed, and he played quarterback.
Mhm.
Connell Mater, he down at Alabama State now. It was I could outthrow any of y'all right now. I could outrun any of y'all right now. He 40 plus, you know what I mean? And we in our mid-20s, we prime, you know what I mean? And he giving people a run for their money because of mentality, you know what I'm saying? That's all he know is I'm great. That's what I do. And they haven't warmed up or nothing, but he'll get out there and do it because of mentality wise. He was just built like that. And then from him, I had another coach that, like you said, gave those daily nuggets. Like every day, it was some type of reference, some type of tool to daily life of like, we had 5 a.m. practices that a lot of collegiate athletes understand. It's a love and hate relationship. You know what I mean? Get it in early, but you got to get there first. You know what I mean? So like a lot of that stuff, it was more or less of um, what this will mean for you later on. When when you going to work, you got a job. It ain't no little punishment. They taking tallies on you, adding up your books. Like every time you missing a day or you late, this ain't just practice. It's your livelihood. You know what I'm saying? It's your livelihood
Right.
on the line. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. You know what I mean? Usually resonates with people more as they get older. But like you said, the greatest coaches to me, I feel like give you those life lessons outside of just sports. So you talked about college, high school. from an athletic standpoint. So then you mentioned you go pro. What's the
Right.
transition like from college to pro? And I want to say I know you definitely had trials too from
Yeah.
the WNBA, a few, you know what I mean, that you didn't get through. But so like where is that transition period? I know a lot of athletes go through this phase where, you know, after college to pros or, you know, not pros, and you really in the transition of your life, you know what I mean, a lot of times. So what kind of happened for you to transition? Like, you know, what was your feelings going in that, and how you, you know, decided to go overseas and live that life? Because I know that was different too.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of mixed emotions to be
Yeah.
perfectly. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to remember, I switched positions.
Yeah.
I switched positions, and so a lot of people saw me as a forward. I'm not a forward. I'm not a power forward at
Right.
all. I just had a really high basketball IQ,
Right.
and I just work hard. I can
Yeah.
literally play every position,
Yep.
which beneficial for me, because I was able to just flex and be whatever the team needed whenever the team needed it.
Yep.
You know, that was me. That's me as a person. I'm a team player.
Showing that versatility too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes that also you sacrifice yourself, and I literally sacrificed myself and my career.
Mm.
I go to my first tryout, and Mike Coops like, yo, we need you at the point. Like, dang, like I'm still at the four mentality.
Yeah.
Swing the
Yeah.
ball, do this, take the open. You know what I mean? Little
Yeah.
stuff like. And that wasn't the cue that you all know me to be in terms
Yeah.
of my confidence and like just little things like that. That was my first tryout. The second tryout, this is after my first year overseas. I
Mm.
go overseas and I play point.
Oh,
I'm the
okay. Yeah.
point guard.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Right.
I'm back in my element. You know what I mean? I'm back in my element. I got my confidence back. I go and I have a tryout with the Washington Mystics that next year. When I say I was sick at the time. When I say I bust heads, I mean I bust heads. I'm not, I'm a really humble person, but I bust heads.
Right. Right. Right.
Like
Yeah.
to the point where the head coach comes to me. He's like, "Oh, you should be getting a call." My teammate from NC State is on the team at this time. She's
Okay.
like, "He liked you. He wants to invite you to training camp." Blah 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 blah. Long story short, the GM chose a person that she knew.
Mm.
That's the politics of
It's life.
yeah, right.
Life.
I'm on about my business. And I go back overseas, and then that's when Coach Al passes away, and then that's when I get into coaching at the collegiate level. And so for me, the transition was really about getting back to me,
Mm.
um, and who I was as a player versus what the quote unquote team needed. Because
Yep.
now I'm not in that program anymore, and so I have to adjust. And I didn't get that at first. It took Mike Coop to say, "We need a point." And I'm looking at him like, I am a point. So then I made it my business, you know what I'm saying? When I went overseas, I played point.
Yeah.
That's what they needed. And I'm like, man, yeah, that ain't no problem.
Right.
Combo
Right.
guard. I'm literally a combo guard. I can a combo guard who can play post.
Yeah.
So I think for me it was more so, like you said, it was the mentality of, and I wasn't playing for Coach Yow anymore. So I would sacrifice some things for her because of who she was as a person.
Right.
At the professional level, you don't do that. You can't.
It's one thing. Yeah, it's one thing you focus on and you tunnel in. Like that's your niche. You know what I'm saying? That's what you do.
Exactly. And my niche ain't the four
Right.
overseas.
Yeah.
And so I had to really break that mold, and really do some soul searching after that comment from the LA Sparks. Um, and so it really like turned on a light bulb for me. And again, I utilize those things as a coach myself when it comes to dealing with players and confidence and those type of things. So I think the biggest transition was just really the mentality piece
Mm.
of is different. Professional athletics is totally different from collegiate athletics to me. And it's more so to me, collegiate athletics is really you sacrifice and you do the sacrifices for the team. At the pro level, it's like, this is the skill set that I know you have. This is what we hired you to do. And if you don't do what we hire you to do, then we no longer need you.
Need you. Yeah.
Right. And
Strictly
so
business.
it's strictly business. And so
Strictly
at
business.
the pro level, it's like, okay, I'm here to handle my business.
Right.
And that's how I was in high school too. I really had no choice,
Yeah.
right? At the level, you're surrounded by athletes. And so I could take a back seat if I needed to, or if that's what coach, saw
Yeah.
me to do. We didn't have franchise players in our program at NC State. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
that was with your personality around too, though. Like I've had that type of mentality for a while. Like, what you need me to do, I got it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like you said, as you get older, you realize like I got to look out for me too. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you get to a point in your life, it's like, now you want to coach. Okay, now I got to take charge and really be me instead of sitting back and let people kind of tell me what I need to do. So
right.
that's a transition period. You know what I mean? Too, like from a mentality also.
Being able to teach young women, especially young women, you have to teach young women that.
Yeah.
You have to teach young women to never sit around and allow anybody to define your role for you. You define your role.
Yeah.
And I tell my players this all the time, Coach, what's my role? What's my role? You define it. You define your role.
Yeah, that's what society kind of, especially for us, like Black, you know what I mean? It's you do this, that's it, shut up, sit down. You know what I'm saying? Like males and females, you know what I mean? And then I think on the other side of that, even from women, like outside of that, like you guys are probably taught, submission to, life, like men, you know what I mean, too. So yeah, I couldn't imagine, you know what I mean, like that transferring over from you, like being a player, and then to be able to coach. So like what was some like the things you had to kind of learn from being a player to next step into a coaching role? Because you start out at St. Elizabeth College.
I started at Central.
Central, okay, and then you went over to.
From Central, I went from Central to Monmouth University. From Monmouth, I took 2 years off to be a therapist.
Okay.
And then I went JUCO for a year at the Community College of Philadelphia. Okay. And then I was at the College of St. Elizabeth for 3 years. And then now I'm here at William Peace.
Okay, so you was moving around a lot more than I thought. I thought it was.
Yeah, I've been in the game for a minute.
Yeah. Because you were assistant up until what school will you be becoming? Well, as a head coach.
College of Philadelphia.
Okay, and that was the JUCO level. Got you.
Yep.
So from that, like I said, what was I guess traits you had to learn, you had to switch up, mentality. You player in there now. I'm in charge. Like I got the schemes. I got, you know what I mean. What is it for you now?
I mean, for me, I think I'll be honest. I went back to school. I went back to school to coach, to be a better coach, because, man, those first 2 years, even though I was close in age, I did not understand the student athlete population. Like, I didn't understand the lack of self-motivation. What I felt was the lack of self-motivation.
Yeah.
What I felt was like, it was just basketball with no passion. It was just, you play for clout, and the clout of being on a team, especially since it was traditionally a good team in the CI. When I went, we were independent and we weren't that good. So for me, I just didn't understand. I'm just coming off a Sweet 16 and we like over. It was really, really difficult. It was really, really difficult for me to understand players.
Yeah.
And so when I went to Monmouth, my coach knew that I wanted to get my master's degree. When I say my coach, the head coach that I coached under was also my assistant coach at NC State.
Okay.
And so she asked me to come to Monmouth, and she knew I wanted to get my master's degree. And so she had a clause in her contract where I can get my master's degree. I would say for free, but I had to pay taxes on that tuition, and they weren't free. Man, it put a hole in my pocket. But nonetheless, I got my master's degree in student affairs and college counseling. I'm very efficient person. I hate wasting my time. And so I wanted to do something that I knew I would utilize. And student affairs and college counseling put me in a space where I would learn directly about college athletics, not college athletics, but college students. I would learn about student life, which is athletics. Athletics is under the umbrella of student life. So I would learn about student modalities, like all of these different things. And I knew I wanted to be a collegiate coach. So I thought it just made sense to me. I would learn how to motivate. It had a counseling curriculum and a social justice curriculum as well. So I chose that program. And so for me, that's when things shifted. Like, that's when me as a coach, that's when I became a coach, To me,
Yeah.
I was just out there learning.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. On the
I was
fly.
just out there
Yeah.
learning on the fly at first. Like I knew the game of basketball. I loved the game of basketball, but I didn't know how to motivate um, college students. I knew how to motivate young kids. They wanted to come to camp. They chose
Yeah.
to come to camp.
Right.
You feel me? And so it was just different because that's only a weekend. That's only a week. A season is a very long time.
Yeah.
People can get
Yeah.
unmotivated really quick.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest adjustment is that I had to realize that they weren't me. That
Mm.
was the biggest adjustment. And still today, and still today, that they're not me.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that they come up in a different time. They have a different mentality. They have far more distractions than I ever had.
Yeah.
They have to deal with far more than I ever had to deal with, even economically. And so it's a lot of things that I had to just really step back and allow them to be themselves and really learn who they are as human beings and meet them where they are so I can get the best out of them.
Yeah, listen, I hear it from coaches that I had high school to college, and they're just like, yeah, what's going on? They ask me about like certain kids that I might know of, like from the area or
Mm-hmm.
whatever at the school at the time, or I ask them about this plan. And just like, man, I hear the same thing. Like, man, I don't understand this generation, man. It's just different. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm not that, like you said, not that far from them, but it's just like, it's a different world. Like, I know I'm not, that far in their age, but like I didn't have Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
Twitter in high school. Like they had this like in middle school, like early. So they just like this is what revolves like their world almost. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's definitely different. But I still see like even from a skill level, like kids like different level of skill too, because they have access to stuff like just via YouTube, like you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Anything
Yeah.
they can just get to it and this drill, let me take this outside right quick and boom, work on this. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
they have the opportunity to do more than we have, even though they have just as many distractions too. So
Mm-hmm.
that's different for me that I see from an student athlete perspective. And then, like you said, the student life, college life, that's where, at me personally, that's why I feel like I became an adult before I even got to, you know what I mean, out
Yep.
of school. Like that transition period of being on your own, waking up for class, ain't no mom and daddy in there getting you up, your alarm clock, your schedule, your little money management, the little change we did have, you know what I mean, in college,
Mm-hmm.
so all that you learn, in that transition period from high school to college or college to life after college, you know what I mean? So
Right.
that
Right.
was huge for me to learn. So I know it's still like that now, even more with trying to keep up with the clout, social media, and all that's going on. But it definitely have its benefits too, like you said, being able to learn on the
It
fly,
does.
YouTube and all that good stuff. So around that, also, I want to get into your nonprofit that you have going on as well back in Princeville.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that come about? And what you all doing there?
Well, it came about in 2000 after Matthew in 2016. 1999. I was in like ninth grade.
Mm,
My grandmother was the mayor at that particular time, and I just truly didn't understand. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand politics in ninth grade. I didn't understand any of that stuff in 1999.
right.
All I knew is I wanted my grandma to leave, and she wouldn't leave until all the citizens left, and I was mad. You know, I was down at Mr. Matheson's store when the levee broke, all of that. So I remember seeing the water. I remember all of that good stuff. I just do
So
not.
yeah, people that don't know is that we watching like Eastern North
Yeah,
Carolina. So we had Floyd 99, which was
a
big to
500
us.
year floodplain. Yeah. So
Yeah, like
there was a flood that they expect to come every 500 years.
right. And
That's
they
how huge
came
it was.
and it was huge. And even though if we've had flooding since then, but we'll get into that discussion later on too. But
Yeah,
like this was for us, this was like a Katrina for us in a smaller area. You know what I mean?
very
So
much so.
it devastated the area completely. But go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. I just want to give some people some background on that.
Yeah, so the entire town was underwater, in '99, and the council voted to not. I'm gonna say sell out Princeville.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they didn't. They said didn't sell it out to the government. And so 2016 came along, and Hurricane Matthew came, and so at this point in time, I'm much older. I'm educated,
yep.
and so educated to listen. And I got pissed off with the governor at the time, who called us the poorest of the poor.
Mm,
And I had attitude. I had a real major attitude when he said that at Tarver High School. And I had to sit and I had to, I had to gather my thoughts and really think about this thing. What did he mean by that, right?
Yeah.
And so I started to do research. I love to research. And so at that time, what I figured out, what I learned is that we're a tier 3 community, which means we are literally the poorest of the poor in terms
Yeah.
of economic disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
And so we are, I think it's like 100 counties in North Carolina. We're
Yep.
14. And that's education as well,
Yep.
housing, education, all of these
Yep.
things go into factor. And so I'm like, okay, this is what he meant, but nobody's talking about the rich history that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's talking about how we got to be so economically
Mm-hmm.
distressed in the first place. And so I started to do my research. I started to learn more about my town, the historical significance, and how to preserve that culture. But first and foremost, it was about how do we save our town? And so we started a hashtag Save Princeville back in 2016, right after Hurricane Matthew. We started Fighters for Freedom Hill, but we really focused on quote unquote saving Princeville, bringing
Yep.
awareness to the historical relevance and importance of Princeville. We have a whole executive order to protect Princeville. So why y'all keep trying to buy us out? So I
Yeah.
was pissed.
Yeah.
I was pissed. So I attended meetings and all of that good stuff. And the more I learned, the more I understood that not just Princeville has a rich Black history, but Edgecombe County as a whole. Princeville is majority Black, but so is Edgecombe County. And so
Yep.
we rebranded into Freedom Organization with Kendry Ransom and I, where we really like to focus on, our community as a whole. And so that's from historical to cultural preservation, affordable housing, agriculture development,
Yep.
youth development. So those are the things help. And with agriculture, that goes right along with health and nutrition. So we
Yeah.
really want to heal our community and highlight the great things that our community have that other people won't for some reason.
Yeah.
And the only thing other people want to focus on is our lack. I want to focus on the rich history and the richness of our people, and building those people, because those people are literally my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they're not my blood family, then they're
Close
my
enough.
family through relation.
Right.
And so, like I tell everybody, this isn't some business for us. This is personal. Now we'll take this business model, and we want to take this business model and really help other communities across southeastern North Carolina, especially rural communities like ours. But that's how it started. It started from a passion and love for our community and for our people and for our history. And it started because, as athletes, don't piss us off. Don't piss us off.
Exactly.
And it really pissed me off. What he said and what I felt the government feels about us, and politicians as a whole feel about us. They see
Yeah.
us as people, as green, and we the people must take a stand if we want to make a difference. And so that's what I'm hoping that we do, is empower the people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually I have Kendrick scheduled next week, so that'll be a good
Nice.
conversation to talk about him too. But yeah, it's crazy to see, like you said, we don't learn any of this stuff in school. You know what I mean? Like we always get talked about, like, why are you like guys so proudful about things you're doing or history that's so old and all this that the third? It's because of this is who we are. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that and for like me, like I said, I didn't know about Princeville. Was like you said, all I know is Tarboro, Princeville, and I'm on East Tarboro. And at the time of how we don't like each other or whatever the case may be when growing up, you know what I'm saying? Like what that little cultural stuff was, but really seeing how big it was, like, man, y'all, like we playing, like this is minute compared to the stuff they trying to do to us. Like they trying to really, I wasn't in Princeville, but I grew up in Tarboro. So, but that same area,
Yeah.
from Panola on, East
Specifically,
Tarboro,
I think
listen,
that's important to note.
listen, that area, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like when it flooded 99, I remember this. I'm a kid. I remember being in my grandma's house, like the fire truck coming to the house, and it's the water like in our yard, and I'm on the other side of the street. This is where the river coming from the gym at the time, which is probably over 400-500 yards. Like we talking like this is a ways away. And they telling us like, yeah, y'all can move, and we got to move to the hospital, the high school, and staying there and all this. Like it's crazy to see this, but the other sides of the town, like they're fine. Like certain parts of the town, like it's fine. They don't even get touched. But we were, put into this situation of the projects is literally a project for us to be in. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to see how it is then and now, and just how we treat it. It's crazy. But
Yeah. I mean, that's historically the case in Eastern North Carolina or most places, is that low income and or Black communities are strategically placed in low-lying areas because that was the property that we were allowed to buy after
yep,
we were released from slavery. It was the property nobody wanted.
yep,
And so you can go. I've researched and I know the slave owners that we bought the property
yeah,
who
it's
owned
crazy.
that property in East Tarboro and Princeville. I've done a lot of research, and it just really blew my mind to see some of the history that we have right there in Tarboro and Princeville, and the history in not East Tarboro, because East Tarboro is really, if we're being honest here, it's an extension of Princeville. And it became an extension of Princeville because they needed the labor of the citizens of Princeville in Tarboro.
Mm,
And,
that's
they were,
crazy.
yeah, and you have to think about it. They didn't always have the bridge,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
that's where East Tarboro came from.
Wow.
That's why most of the people, that's why the older I got, I didn't understand the beef, because most of them first cousins.
Literally first cousins.
So
I'm like, what we beasting over again? Like, what what's the problem? Like,
yeah, so it's just historical, man.
yeah,
And the more I hope that our young people can understand this stuff too, so that we can make a difference and we can make a change. Not just in our, like, not just saying, but like really get to the root of this stuff. Like really,
yeah,
really have some pride in our history and what the people and our forefathers before us, the foundation that they laid, because we were thriving. When I say thriving, I mean booming.
yeah, yeah.
Economically, we were booming. I
So
mean, we can do that.
and in the time, and I did some research about it too early on. Not much, not as much as you, like you in depth, but like I said, for people who don't know, Princeville was the first chartered Black town in the U.S. Like I
Mhm.
know, a lot of people don't know about it, or that was a fun fact I did. Like I did a Black History Month every day of February, just kind of educate people on, not like the stuff that everybody know, like the George Washington car, like, what I'm saying, peanut butter. We talking about stuff right in your backyard, like, small towns that's going on and we still not addressing. Um, but yeah, like I saw like he was the man when he moved and bought the town, and I won't get his name specifically wrong, but it was
Prince Turner.
Prince Turner.
He was a
So
carpenter.
and was, like you said, thriving, came back from the military, came home from the military, and basically helped charter this town alongside others. But
Hmm.
that stuff we don't talk about. You know what I mean? Like that the fact that Princeville is right there and doesn't get half the publicity or half the support that it needs to from the state, from the country, honestly, it's crazy to me. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. But that was part of the reason why I wanted to get you on the episode as well, just kind of talk about some of that stuff that you guys are doing. And like I said, I heard
Yeah.
Kendrick go on too, so we'll get
Yeah.
into
We're
to
doing a
his
lot,
portion.
man. We're doing a lot. Right now, for me, we're doing a lot behind the scenes, a lot of planning stuff,
Yep,
especially in terms, affordable housing and stuff like that is really what I'm working on behind the scenes. Agriculture, everybody knows what we're doing agriculturally. We have
yeah,
an agriculture athlete camp. We'll be announcing that soon. We had it 2 years ago, got canceled last year because of COVID, but we want to get back to that and teaching our athletes how to be holistic, right?
yep,
How to eat well, understanding where your food comes from, understanding why nutrition is important as athletes. We're also getting, grinding in, but we also do things like yoga and meditation.
okay,
So we really want to teach these things to our babies while they're young. And then we'll go all the way up to like high school this year. Last year was just like elementary. Well, 2 years ago was elementary school. The beautiful thing that, most of those young men who came, working on getting some young women out there too, most of those young men who came were a part of my cousin Jonah's AAU team. They won a national championship,
yep,
right? And
yep,
so it's just little stuff like that where we have to continue to teach our youth and start with our youth. We also do an out of school suspension program. as an alternative to just kids just staying home. We're working on a curriculum, a STEAM curriculum, where we're getting some high tonals and things like that, where we're going to teach students and young people about agriculture
Yep.
and different things like that. So we have a lot of different things planned this coming summer. Hopefully, COVID doesn't.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they're going in the right direction with the vaccines going around, and everybody trying to get more vaccinated and all that good stuff with everything, and the numbers just going back down in general, with it being warm. So yeah, hopefully you guys get that going, and I definitely, I'm call away. You guys come down, and I come down. I'm only an hour away from home, so it's
okay.
always space for me to come in and be a part of that.
Yeah,
You
we'll get
mentioned
our community days going back too.
You said what?
I said we'll get our community days at the cemetery going back as well.
Oh yeah. I remember
Yeah,
you guys doing that too. Yeah, and that because I have family out there too, so I definitely got to get out there also.
yeah, for sure. Come on out.
But yeah, I just want to conclude with that, and any messages you want to pass over to any aspiring women athletes, you know what I mean? Because it's different, you know what I mean, for you guys, especially being Black, or even aspiring coaches. What would you like to leave them with? Some tips of greatness, how to get to where you are, or even more.
Yeah, I would just say to anybody that's aspiring to do anything is number one, you have to be authentic. And you have to know who you are, what your gift and your purpose is back to this world. And then do your best to live that every day. It took me till I was almost 30, mid to late 20s to really figure out who I was and live wholeheartedly and authentically. And once I lived authentically, everything else is really aligned and fell into place. Just know that you have a purpose. Just know that, if you submit to your divine purpose here, that all will be well. And that's just really what I believe. It just goes to say, again, faith without work is dead, though. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to put in the work, and again, do it authentically. Just can't even talk. Do it. Do authentically and really do with passion. Everything that you do, you must do with passion and some enthusiasm.
Yep.
So that's what I'll say. And then for young women, be confident, man. Don't let anybody tear your confidence down. If you don't have confidence, it's because you gave it away. And as Black women, you need to know 10 times more than everybody else around you.
Sadly, but true. Yeah, it's the same over here too. Believe me, I get it. But yeah, it's really a reality we live in. But yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, you good. Because and as Black women, you can speak up as a man, and it's expected. It's expected for you to speak up as a man. As a woman, you get all kinds of backlash. When men, I've literally been in spaces where men speak up, it's like, oh, ha, 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 we laugh it off. But when a woman speak up, it's like, oh, here she goes.
Yeah.
So what? Keep your foot on their neck when you know what's right.
Yeah,
Keep your foot on the neck when you know what's right. Because that's your purpose and that's your life, and you will be protected. So, that's my advice is to never cower away from what you know is right in your purpose.
Yeah, most definitely. I do appreciate those tips, and that goes for men and women, honestly.
For
And I mean,
sure.
keep doing your thing. Shout out to you guys at Peace University. Great season going. See you guys 10-5. Got the number 2 seed. You're doing your thing. So hey, keep grinding it out, and wish you well to you and the team as well.
Appreciate you, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye.